Today I want to continue on a little bit with how to have the computer talk to you. Okay. One thing you should realize when I present these things is that each one of the things I present is like a little tool, and that tool works together with other tools. You can put them all together and make much more complicated programs. And the way it works is that a tool, you give information to it, and it gives information back to you. The information it gives back to you, you can put into a different function and have it come out and do something different. So in other words, information can be passed from function to function to do a lot of different things. So in this particular case, it's possible to have a program that you could, for example, change the color of the screen. I'm just going to give you an example of the kind of thing you could do just with what we have now. We have a way of saying change the color of the screen, make the screen a different color. You can do that in JavaScript. We don't have that command yet, but we can get that command. And essentially what you could do is you could have someone say to the computer, blue. And what would happen is that blue would be captured, your voice would be captured, and it would take that blue and it would send it to the color of the screen and change the screen to a different color. So in other words, it's possible not only for the computer to talk to you, but you can talk to the computer as well. But something's come up that actually causes a little bit of problem for me. This is a brand new problem, just came up this year, is that Google's very nervous about allowing people's computers to listen to them or to take videos of them. So because the camera light doesn't have to be on for it to be on. The camera light's controlled by program. You can shut the light off and the camera's still running. So you could be sitting in your room and thinking your computer's webcam's turned off, but it isn't turned off at all. Or the sound could be running, just that part of it. So Google's concerned about that, so what they've done is they've made it harder for people to write programs that listen to people talking or to video them while they're doing stuff and have it stream online. They're making it hard to send that stuff online. So what they did was, they didn't want to get rid of it, of course, but there's a thing called the secure socket layer. It's usually just called SSL. That's the word they use. And all of the hosts, like for example, Alta Vista has it. They all have it, but unfortunately they charge you for it, so we aren't going to use it. But what the secure socket layer does is it allows Google to have better control over whether someone's eavesdropping or not. It has to go to a specific kind of secure layer. You can't cut into it and listen. In other words, it's encrypted. So the information's encrypted going back and forth. And that means that because it's encrypted, nobody can just go in and eavesdrop and see what's going on because they won't be able to understand what's going on. It's encrypted. What?
I've definitely heard of this in many cases, even with cell phones potentially, like having a phone's microphone activated.
Cell phones can do it, yeah.
Like honestly, just because unless I'm using it, I leave my computer's webcam covered with like a little piece of tape.
Well, that's what the FBI does too, but that doesn't shut the microphone off.
Yeah, but it's still a little less likely to eavesdrop or just privacy unless I'm using it to Skype.
Right, but in our particular case, we're just dealing with sound now, and so that in itself is already a problem.
They could eavesdrop sound-wise on you.
So, well, I mean, a cell phone is a computer. That's all it is. What else is a computer? With an aerial on it. But essentially, I'm still going to teach you how to talk to the machine, and you're going to be able to write programs that will listen to what you say and respond. But here's where the thing is. I can teach you how to do it, but you can't put those programs online unless you get an SSL layer for whatever host that's hosting your stuff. So that means that you will understand how to write the stuff, and how to code it, and how to use it, but you won't be able to upload it so that your friends can use it. That's a sort of a downer for me, because that's the most fun, is having your friends look at your programs. Sometimes, like for example, where my host monster that hosts the class website, they have a temporary free SSL you can use. You just hook this thing on and it does it for you. They might have that at Alta Vista. They might have something like that. If any of you guys want to inquire about it, just ask them if they have any free SSL demonstration or something like that. If they do, then it'll be easy if you could actually put your program online and you could use it like that. As long as you weren't doing it like, you know, for thousands of programs or how, you know, commercially, they probably have some kind of a system for you to try it out. Anyhow, that's a little bit of a downer, but what I want to continue on with today is having the machine talk to you. Now you can, what we did in the last class is I ran some programs at the end after the class was, you know, later in the class that demonstrated programs that actually talk to you. There's various kinds. There's programs that will, well, I ran a program that makes noises to demonstrate how to make a noise and how to make a sound. And there are also programs, if you guys just try, you should try those programs that are up there. I sent them up because if you look at them, listen to them, see how they work, and then look behind the scenes to see how the code looks, you'll see that it's just what we do in class, except that these programs do work, and they have, you know, I make a typo on the board. You can't copy it and expect it to work, but the ones that are online do work because I run them and I test them. So you have those, and they'll show you how to do various things like how to make a sound, how to press a button and make a sound, how to have the computer talk to you, like you can type text and it'll talk to you. And last time we talked about foreign languages, but I actually didn't do a lot with it. But let me tell you about the foreign language thing. There is a problem with it, as you brought up last time. There's a problem with it, what characters they do and do not understand. It turned out that I did a little experimenting last night, and I found out, first of all, I found a web page, which I've got, it's on today's website. You can look at it, you can go to it, and it has the list of all Google's codes for languages. Every language that they translate, every language they use is up on that. There's a code for it, it's up there. And the codes look like this. I'm going to write them on the board, because then you get an idea. We'll use a couple on a program just to show you what they work like. This is they're actually just usually 2 letters, a minus sign, and 2 letters. And so, like for English, for example, is EN, minus sign, capital U, capital S, like that. That should be an right there. British is English, hyphen, GB for Great Britain. Those are uppercase, these are lowercase. The Netherlands is NL-NL, like so. So that, it speaks Dutch, so they have Dutch. And they have French, which is FR, like so. They have German, which is DE, capital DE, like so. I'll write a few of these down here. They even have Hindi, which is kind of interesting. HI-IN. They have Italian, lowercase t, capital IT, like so. That's a lowercase t right here, that's all it is. Let me make it look different. Then Japanese, they do have Japanese. Whoops, lowercase j. It's a lowercase j right there. And JP, like so. Those JA and JP. They have Korean, which is KO, lowercase, and KR, like so. These are the codes that they have. They have Spanish. They have ES is Spanish. I think it's ES, but let's see what else I got here. There's not very many more. Well, there is. They got them for Russian, Spanish, Polish, Mexican. These are the ones that I've tested and they actually work. They have hundreds there, but here's where the trouble comes in. Google didn't write these things for us to play with. What they wrote them for is their telephones, because the telephones, you know, translate and do all kinds of stuff. So what they did is, in the process of developing that, they actually developed it in such a way that we have JavaScript code that we can pull and we can use it. But that's what I do. I take it and put it up there, and you guys call that JavaScript code and it does stuff. The problem is they don't give us complete access to everything because that's a commercial deal. They sell the rights to, you know. So they let you have a few languages just to practice with or get around with, but they won't give you the full software. You don't have access to that unless you give them some money. So I want you to see how to do it, how to use it, to get the idea of how to use it. And that way, if you go to the commercial stuff, it's the same. You just have different codes for the languages we don't have. It has Quebec French. It has several versions of Spanish, you know, and several versions of Portuguese, you know, countries that speak it in different places. So they have lots of possibilities. As I say, there's a list there. Looks like a couple hundred anyway of things. So that's where we're at. We're going to be able to use some of these because they are available to us. And by the way, another thing I noticed is like Swedish, for example, it worked for me one time of the day and it didn't work for me a different time of the day. So my suspicion is they're experimenting with it, playing with it, doing something to it, I don't know what. But it doesn't seem to work all the time. Some of these may or may not, like I have a suspicion Hindi might have a problem because it isn't kind of a lot of people speak it, but it isn't common in the West. So you might have trouble getting it to work. But anyway, I'll show you how to use it. I'll show you how these things, the programs I gave you originally was written and it hid everything. Nothing was visible to you in that first program. You just simply said, press the button and it did French, press the button and it did German and so forth. But I didn't show you how to put stuff in, how to actually put something to say in there. If you have there's a thing called Google Translate. And if you go, if you look this up in Google, you look it up in Google, click on it, it'll come up with this site that gives you this thing over here, and you have buttons as to which language you want it to, that you're going to type in this area. And then over here, it has another little thing, and you decide which language is going to be translated into. So basically what happens is you type stuff in here, and as you type it, it starts translating over here into the other language, whatever language you choose. Yeah.
Google Translate also, I believe, has a function. I don't know if it just does this backwards, but I'm sure it's easy to program, where you can put in something, yeah, Google Translate, and it will detect what language it is if you're uncertain.
Oh, it does that for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can type in any language. You don't have to choose it even. It chooses it for you. That's up to you, but
like
because of the fact there's some variations in the languages, you might have two Frenches, for example. You have Quebec French and French.
Well, like using it for Spanish.
It might have try to decide which language you're going into.
Well, like for example, if you tried to like cheat on your Spanish homework, it would be obvious to your instructor because it still doesn't always translate things, you know.
No, if you write something in English here, if it goes into, there's different Spanishes. If it goes into Mexican Spanish or it goes into Spanish, it's going to look different because of what it is. So how would it know if you didn't tell it what to do?
Right, and so like that's how like people would get in trouble for like even in high school doing that is because it would be translated weirdly.
Okay. Basically, the idea is that you can set the language that you're coming from, whatever you're going to type in here. You can set the language you're going to. Then you just start typing, and the stuff will come out over here. And what I do is, if you don't have much room in your text area anyway. You only have a little box there. So basically, type what you want, and over here it'll come out. Then what you do is just select this. If it's blue, it's selected. You know, and copy it. Copy it to the clipboard. Then you bring it into your program. And if your program has like a box like this, just paste it into that box, and you'll have the true foreign language with its right script and everything. You have the right characters. That's where the trouble comes in. When they did Japanese, amazingly it worked. It understood the Japanese characters, and they're Japanese characters. And the same with Korean characters. It wouldn't do the Chinese. There's 4 versions of Chinese. It wouldn't do any of the 4 for me. That doesn't mean it won't do it. It just means that the way that coding list is worked out, it isn't quite clear. So what you might do, if you want to find out how to do the Chinese one, what I would do is I'd find a Chinese translation program in JavaScript already and look at it and see what code, you'll be able to see what code they're using, what this looks like. You can see which one it is. Then you'll have it. Once you have that code, you can use it. It'll work for you as too. You have to sometimes, sleuth around and find out what you need. As I say though, these two definitely work, and Italian works, and German works, and so forth. So what happens is once you put the characters in here, like for example, if I went to, I said, hello, how are you? and I set this to Japanese, it would say, hello, how are you, in Japanese. I can copy that, I can put it into this thing right here, and then when I press my button, I could have it go to Japanese, and it would read the Japanese in Japanese with a proper accent and everything. I mean, it's quite well done. So these guys have spent a lot of time on this. So you can do that. That's the way I get the stuff. If I want to test something, like for example, you have to get, after a while you get good at trying to figure out what's going on. British English and American English. If you had two buttons and you pressed them, yeah, they have a slightly different accent. You can detect it a little bit by the accent. But you have, there's tricks you can do. For example, if you write lieutenant, if you write down the word lieutenant, the Americans are going to say lieutenant, and the British are going to say lieutenant. And you're going to immediately see, yeah, this is British. You're going to see immediately, this is a British voice speaking. So you can kind of find little tricks like that between the British and the American. And there's also Australian English and Canadian English. Canadian English is easy. You just simply say whatever it is in English and you just add a little A to the back of it. that does it. A. But so essentially though, there are different, Google's good enough to have actually languages, variations of every language. Not just English, but Spanish. They have a ton of Arabic languages. They do have Hebrew. Just take a look at the list. You'll see which ones they have. And some of them might work. They might work on your machine that didn't work on mine, for example. It could be on a Macintosh, you might get a better result. There was only one that I had that didn't give me the font. The Arabic wrote, everything worked perfectly well. Didn't say anything. That was the problem. Same with Hebrew. It wrote the Hebrew perfectly, but it didn't say anything. But in a Macintosh, you may have a different result. So you should test it to be sure. If you have something specifically you want to do, I'll help you. We'll figure out how to do it. I mean, obviously, if it can be done without paying for it, we can do it. You know, it's out there. We can find it, get it together. But anyway, that gives you a possibility of finding programs in language. Now, what I did today is I wrote something that kind of is a practice for this sort of thing. And it goes like this. Basically, you have a screen, and you're at an airport. Okay, you're at some airport. And then what you have is a series of buttons. It's like the information buttons. Where's your airplane gonna, which gates are gonna come to? And that one's like in English, that one's in, British, French, Italian, whatever. And you put the names right on it in their national names. You write it as correctly for the national names. And then what happens is when someone comes up to the thing for information, they press their national name. And it says your flight 12 is arriving at gate 16 or something like that. It actually says it to you in English. And if you press one of these other national names, it'll say the same thing in a foreign language. And the way you get that, you don't have to speak those languages yourself. All you have to do is go to Google. You say, your flight is arriving at 12 o'clock, and translate it into French, translate it into German, translate it into, and you figure it out so that you have all the possibilities. So once you can set one of these things up, it might sound crazy to someone who's a real native speaker because those translations are always a little bit weird. But I've experimented. I've taken a few languages, and some of them, they sound pretty good to me. I mean, they sound like what a translation would sound like to me, but of course I don't have an American ear. So what I want to do is, I want to write some code to experiment with this stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is the airport one, this one right here. I'm going to do that airport one because it gives you a chance to see the whole thing, an application of the language thing on your on the machine, just so you can see how it's written, what the code looks like. To begin with, so what it's going to do is this: I'm going to have a big screen. I'm going to have it have an area in here. No area. We don't need the area. I'm just going to say, I'll call it translate or something like that, or let's call it flights. Flights, I'll call it flights. Big word flights in there. And then what we'll have is a series of buttons. And each button will be for a different language. I can't do too many because the board's not very big. But if I did it for 3 of them, it's the same process for 4, 5, and 6. That's one thing about programming you get used to after a while. You realize, a program looks long, but it's really the same things over and over and over and over again. It's one for each language. You've got to do exactly the same thing for each language. So it's a lot of repetition. That doesn't mean the program's long. It just means it's, it's the same thing. It repeats over and over. So in this case right here, let's just pick a few languages. To begin with, stuff like so. Now everybody in this room knows that's how it always starts, right? This is how we start. We always start these things. Okay. Now this is a special program, a script that I wrote that is going to translate based. It's going to give an accent based on these codes here. Last time you just simply pressed the button. It had US and we had FR and stuff like that. This time these are going to be the codes. So in other words, when if you want to say something in German, you'll say the German, put the German down, and then you'll have it. This will be the code right here. Okay, so what this one's doing is different than the previous program. In the previous program, I was an intermediary. I said put US, and I would translate it into this. You didn't see that. But in this program, you're going to have access to the original things because once you look at that list, you're going to want to be able to do it yourself without having me get in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, here's the expression, and here's the language we want you to speak it in. Go to it. And that's how we're going to do it, okay? So, I made up this script, which you have to, it'll download when you write this in, it'll download the thing. It says, what that says right here is that I'm about to send it a JavaScript program, a JavaScript file that contains little functions in it that we can use, okay? What those functions do is they contact Google and they do everything for you. They take care of the Google part for you.
Is there a space between script and type?
What?
Is there a space between the word script and the word type in the third line?
What about it?
Is there a word between the word script and the word type? Script, type. Is there a word that... A space, rather, excuse me.
Yes, there is a space.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The source is... now here's another thing I want you to do. I'm going to have to talk about this in a second, TTP. docworks.com. That's our site right there. / the name of this file is newtalk. Newtalk. The one we used last time is JS. The one we used last time was just talk. This one's newtalk. Now, here's the thing. This part right here just simply says that file's on my website, on the docworks website, okay? If you actually, which you could do, you could actually go into that website if you want. You go to my website, and you could grab a hold of this thing and download it into your own machine. Perfectly okay. But then you wouldn't have to write this part anymore. You could just write that part, because you got it in your machine. It would recognize the file. It would say, there's the file. This right here, this pathway right here, this whole thing, is only there because everybody in the room can use my file. They simply, when they want to use newtalk, they just simply go to my file and grab it and use it. So it has to actually have that pathway in front of it. So all that simply does, the reason why all that stuff is there is simply because I have that file in my account, and you just call it from there. Even though you're someplace else, you can call it and bring the stuff into your machine. That's one of the nice things about having pathways. Okay, so there it is. So right there now you have the immediate ability to write the expression in a foreign language and grab one of these guys and say how you want it pronounced, and it works. Okay, let me write the code. I'll keep writing the code for it. Okay, so then what we want to do is go write script. Language. JavaScript. And this is where the code's going to go right here. The first function I'm going to make is one that will speak American. It's going to speak American. I'm going to call it American. Don't forget, I make up these names. You make up the names. These are just the name of the no, it's just the function I want to use to speak American, that's all. I'm not sending anything up there. And the reason why I don't have to send anything up, because we're not going to say anything. See, there's no room to type anything. We're not going to say anything here. All you want to do is go to the function. The function's already going to know the words it wants to say, because you went to Google Translate and pulled the phrases and you put them into the program here. So it's going to say those phrases in that foreign language. They're going to say it right up here. It's going to say it right here. Okay, so let's do American first. It says this. And now what I want to do is I want to say with accent. This is the same function we used before. We're calling this function. And I want to say, quote, good morning. Your flight Okay, now let me tell you what happens here. I say with accent, and I'm sending up the literal phrase I wanted to say. The first thing you do, you always send the phrase, you don't always, but in the program that I've been writing, you send what's going to be said and what accent you want it to be, comma, what accent. So you got two things. And the phrase has to be in quotes. It has to be in quotes because this is not a variable. A variable would just be like phrase. I got to put the word phrase there. If the phrase had something in it, I could just say phrase. But I don't have a variable. I just want to say the exact, I just want to write the stuff down and say this. So what it does is it says all this stuff right here. And then it says it with an English accent. So there's this function right here with accent. It goes up, which is up in here. It's up in here. It actually finds the English accent and says the expression. That's all it does. The program, that's over. That function's over. So in other words, when I press the button, it says English on it. You know, you got all these buttons, and one of them says English. You press that one, and it goes to the American. It has to say American because we get British too. You say American. You say American on the button, and so we're going to say here's where you go. Now, I can have exactly the same one for French, German, these lines, exactly the same thing. The only difference would be, I would put, in French I'd put, you know, date 6 and all that stuff in French. And then right here, I'd say FR minus FR to tell it what language to speak in. So in other words, I'm giving it the expression in French. You have to find it from Google or wherever, and then you have it right here. So what would happen is, if I press the button American, it's going to come to this one right here. If I press the French one, it's going to come to the next one, which is in French. I'm going to write a fake one, because I can't say that bonjour, votre vie, or something. We'll figure out fake French to do it. Oops. Sorry. Function. Got to get the function in first. French. And then you say with accent, same thing. I'm going to I don't know the word for gate. Anybody know the word for gate?
You could use maybe like door or something.
Well, I mean, I don't know the word for airplane. What's the word for airplane in French? You look at Google.
If I turn my phone on, I will.
Let's get some French into this, what you guys say.
Isn't it amazing that the students actually like turn their cell phones off, but then have to turn them back on to use them for class?
You said airplane?
What?
Yeah.
This is avion? Oh, come on. Screw. Okay, Google. The French word for airplane. Okay, Google. The French word for airplane.
Avion.
Avion. That's good. You did it, guys. Oh, your avion, your airplane. Yes. Is that correct? I just say departs. Depart, same word, isn't it? Probably where it came from. Gate 6. Anybody got gate here in the world?
I'm looking that up right now.
Passage. What do I got here? Get rid of this thing. Eat these things. Okay, there we go. Okay, Google. French word for gate.
Porte.
What?
Porte.
Oh, it's port, of course.
P-O-R-T.
It just means entrance. That's exit. Okay. Then you put FR minus FR. And then you close out. So what you do is you keep doing the same thing. Well, what you do the same thing over and over. You got an American one, a French one, however many you want. It's just repetition. Just do the same thing for each language that you're going to do it in. Of course, you have to keep going back to Google to find out, unless you know the language. And so I'm sure there's 200 French teachers that are going to look at this and they're going to say, stupid. That's not French.
Or Spanish will be es muy estúpido.
Padre français. Okay, so that part right there is, you'd have several of those up in the JavaScript. And then you'd end the JavaScript down here someplace. You'd say /script and /head. And you're out. It's over. That part's over, okay? I'm going to erase this. But basically, remember, you have these functions. You have the American function, the French function, or whatever functions you have them up there. Now what I want to do is, I'm going to go into the body and make the front page, make the page over there that shows you the buttons. That's all it does. Okay? Tells you what they're going to do. So in other words, in this case, I only need 2 buttons. I need one that says American information and French information in French. I'll say American Francais. How's that? And they'll be able to figure it out. So I'm going to get rid of this now. Remember, you just got 2 functions. You got this one and this one. They both do the same thing, except you go to the American function from one button and you go to the French function with a different button. So we're going to have different buttons to go to each language, whatever language it is. Okay, so let me, actually I could leave one of them there just as a demo. I think I can put the other stuff in. Okay, so what happens then is you say, okay, /script /head, like so, and now you get the body. And I'll center the thing. So it's going to be centered. Now I'm going to put 2 buttons down. I'm going to put one button that says value equals American. It's going to put that right on the button. And on click, you want to go to this thing right here, American. Don't have to send anything up there because everything we need is up there. That's that, takes care of that. Then you have a second button, which is going to be right next to it. If I don't put a BR there, the two buttons are going to be side of each other. First one's going to say American on it. The second one, I suppose you have to be careful of this too because you want to be sure on the buttons you put down their language in their language. Like if you wrote French instead of Français, they might not understand what you were saying. So they want to be able to see it in their language so they can press the right button. Button. Value equals
Français.
You have to get that out of there. Translation too. And on click equals French. They don't see the inside, so we can put what we want here, French. There it is. Pretty bad writing, but there it is. So now you get two buttons, side by side. One says American and one says French. You press the American button, it goes up here and says, good morning, your flight departing at gate 6. Press the French button, it says, bonjour monsieur, it says, I don't know what it says, all kinds of stuff.
Your flight departs at gate 6.
Yeah.
2 p.m.
I had as a joke one year, I added one more on the bottom. It was Rover language. And you press the button, it would bark a couple of times at you. Silly idea.
I think
but,
that Rover
but you can do fun stuff like that. I mean, you know, that's part of the thing. People get too serious about programming. Actually, it's sort of like a game you play. Okay, we got the slash body, slash HTML. It's over. That program is ended. Like I said, you can have as many of these things as you want in here. You could have many inputs and many buttons as you want. You know, whatever. It's not too complicated, I think. You'd have to try it, and they're online. It's there online. What you might want to do is look at the program, run the program, see what it does, look at how it works, look behind the scenes to see how it works, what the code looks like. And don't forget, when you look at a code, you look at this and you go, oh my God, look at this. Don't do that. Do I know what that does? What that does? What this does? Look to see what it does. And the general idea is always, down here, it's going to make a screen, and up here, it's going to do some kind of business behind the scenes, okay? You just got to get used to the idea of the structure of it. This is where the screen is drawn. This is where the action takes place, up in the head. And so, that's that program. And I'll show it to you in a minute here. I'll show you the original, the real program. Another one I want to do is this one here. We made a program that this one here has the built-in phrase in it. But under the new circumstance of these new things right here, I want to show you how to write a program where you can actually, you'll have a box in front of you, text type, and you type in whatever you want to type in. And when you get finished, you have another little tiny box that says, what language is this in? And you type that in. So in other words, you type your text in the big box, and then you type one of these guys in the little box. And then when you hit the button, off it goes, and it translates it, does it for you. So in this program here, we had the words all built into the function. They're all built in. And this one right now is you get to type the words in. You type them in any language you want. Then you press the button and it says those words for you to you. Okay? I just want to show you how just structurally, how you use these things. They're really, the basic idea is simple. The question is to get enough grip on it so you can say, I can give this function, I can give this, and it will give this back to me. And once you get used to that, you're giving it stuff that's giving it back to you in variable names, then that variable can then be used for different things. Like I say, you could change the color of the screen, you could do all kinds of things. It depends on what you want to do. But before we get into something that's complicated, it's much more complicated when you're talking to the machine than it is if it's talking to you. Because when it's talking to you, I mean, if you type something on the screen, you just type it like that, and you say, okay, say it to me. That's very easy to do, because all this has to do, the program looks at those words and it clearly sees what you're writing, because it's written in text. So it clearly knows how to say those words and understands that. When you're talking to it has to hear the garble, the background noise, the this, the that, and it tries to figure out what are you saying. That's a big problem, okay? Because its ears have trouble listening. So what happens is when we get into that stage, which is next week, we'll get into that, you'll see that there's a slightly different problem here. The thing can talk to you easily. You talk to it, So I'll show you what I've done. I've got some little things I've worked out so that they actually will, it'll make it easier. But for today, what I want to focus on, just simply on having the thing talk to you, because once you see a couple of these guys, you'll be able to figure out how to do them for yourself, for any purpose that you need. There are people who make artificial languages, as you probably know, and I've seen some JavaScript programs where you'll type something, and they'll type back in their artificial language how you would say that. So it's all like Google Translate, except it's for their own personal use. They wrote the program because they have a vocabulary that's different than any normal vocabulary. Okay, so this program here, what I want to do is write a program now that does this. It goes on the screen. It's going to have 3 boxes. The first box, you're going to type in one of these guys. The second box, you go run it. You're going to type in the phrase you want it to say, and then you're going to have a button right here. That's it. So basically you type what language you want it to be in, type the thing, hit the button, and it says the words for you. Okay, and with the proper accent. Now if you want to have some real fun, write something in English here, and have it say it with different accents. That's actually quite cool. It's really funny. Makes everything sound a little funny. But anyway, so let's do it. Never saw that before, I bet. Same thing, all this stuff, HTTP, :// /, oops, wait a minute, yeah, new talk. .js, it's a JavaScript program. /script. There it is. That's it. So this right here is the same line that I put in the last program. It's going to use the same procedure, okay? Only the program this time is going to do something slightly different. What I do is I'll say script. Don't use the same names I use. Okay. And we're going to set up from below, we're going to set up the phrase, whatever I'm going to say, phrase, comma, and the language code, which I'm going to call the accent. Well, when it gets up here, whatever we call it down here in the body is one thing. When it arrives here, though, the phrase is the words you say, and the accent's one of those guys right there. Okay. Which comes out of right here, by the way. These guys are right in here. The phrase is right here. The accent's right in here. Okay. So now, next thing is I want to say, okay. I want to say with accent. Don't forget, that right there, capitalized, the other ones are all lowercase. Phrase, comma, accent. Now, in the previous program, the phrase actually was in quote marks. I wrote the phrase right out. It's called literal. I literally said, send these words in the quote marks up there. In this case right here, the phrase is going to be in a variable. It's going to come up in a variable here, so I just put the phrase. It contains words, and this contains the accent, okay? So you don't have to see them all with quotes around them. They're already, already put into a variable. Okay, there, that finishes it right there. That's all there is to it. That program is done. Slash script, I'm talking about more in a sec here. Script, slash head. Put the body up here too, how about that? It doesn't really make any difference, as I've told you. It doesn't make any difference. Style. Text. Fine. Center. Ah! There it is. So that's the end of the head and all that stuff. The body started. Now what I want to do is, the first thing I want to do, it's all centered. First thing I want to do is I want to put in this right here, the text input where I can type in this stuff right here. So I'll put that in. So you have an input. Type equals text. Let's see, ID equals, call it words. All I'm simply doing is saying I have an input, it's a text input area, and the name of this area is words. So whatever I type into the text area is going to be words. That doesn't mean anything. It could be, I can say anything. I just said words. Then I want to do is, I want to put this text area right here, this great big one underneath. Oh wait, I've got to put a BR here. Otherwise it'll put them side by side. That's all one word. Space. And in this one here I gave it an ID right away. As I said, these guys here can be swapped around. It doesn't make any difference. As long as you get spaces between them, it knows where everything is. Call it text. Text. I'm going to put number of columns is going to be 50, and the number of rows going to be 10, and the style, we're not going to put any style in there, let's just leave it at that. What I'm going to do here is we're going to say slash text area. Then I want to hit the carriage return. So what I've done is I put that in first, I put that in second, and now I gotta put the button in. Input, type equals button. Value equals speak. On click equals quote. I want to go up to blah blah here. And I want to send up two things. I want to send up the expression they say, which is words, whatever's in that big text area. Dot value, dot value, yeah. Comma. And then I want to send up this guy here, this code, whatever the code was I typed in. And that was called, what do we call that? I call that words. Ooh, wait a minute. Sorry, that's wrong. I made a mistake there. You guys gotta watch out what I'm doing. Too close to this. This thing, the text is, all that is just this part right here. The text area, its name is my text. That's all, that's the actual. So therefore, I should have said my text right here, because those are all words. My text, dot value, comma, and the second one is words, dot value. See the names, I'm not even using good names here, they're just names. Blah, 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 quote, close. That's it. So what that is a button. You create this button right here. And what it says is, when I click the button, go to blah, blah up there, and send whatever I typed in this big area here, comma, whatever code I gave it. So they come up in that order. So when they get up here, the phrase I'm saying and how I'm going to say it. And then what I do is they say, okay, go up to this function, this special function we made, and which is with accent. Give it the phrase, give it the accent, and it will say it for you. That's it. And it does it. Questions? Questions? Pas de questions? What do you think? Does that look complicated? Is that pretty deep? Notice that we're doing the same thing over and over again. What I'm doing is I'm setting up buttons and text down below on the screen. And I'm setting up some function that does something with that. You send information up there and it does something. A couple of classes ago we were adding numbers together. You send up numbers, it added them together, send the answer back down. So it's always a matter of sending stuff between here and here. Okay? And that's what these programs do. How we doing? We're almost there. So why don't we, let's see if I have anything else I want to be sure I cover with you. Yes, there's a couple things I have to cover. Where did I put them here? Okay, I've got a couple of things that will, when you do the homework, you're going to need this information, so I'll tell you what it is so you have it with the homework. Okay, you get rid of it? Okay. On the homework assignment, this is the automatic one, not an automated one. You have to get 10 points, and if you don't get 10 points, keep doing it until you do. Keep filling in the pink areas until you get all the right answers. And sometime I have to tell you, it depends on how big you have things set. It's possible if you'd have your font set so big that you can't see what you type into an area, but that doesn't hurt anything, it still works. But let me show you what I mean by that. What these programs do is they have boxes for your information. Like suppose the box was like this. And in a normal fight, you could write text into it like that or something, whatever. But maybe the box and the font that you're using for whatever reason, it's so big, it goes out of sight. But don't worry about that, it'll still work. If text is in there, it'll know it's there, okay? Just in case that happens to you. Okay, here's what I want to talk about. A couple of things. There's two ways to control the size of fonts in HTML. There's two standard ways. One of them is an antique. It doesn't even exist anymore very much. They used to have a command that looks like this. H1, make a big font. And then I said, if I said hello here, then I say /H1. Here's what that does. It would take this hello and make it a giant font. Okay, but not even that big. Big, but not, a headline, but not that big. Headline one's a big one. They have several of them. They have H1, they have H2, H3, and H4. They get smaller as you go down the list. They get smaller. Okay, so it makes different sizes of heading. That's one way to do it. It's kind of an old-fashioned way. But you should know it because you're going to see it in programs. People still use it. They just throw it out there, and you're going to see it. You wonder what the heck that is. It's a kind of standard way. Normally, if I want to just put a big, supposing I want to put the translate up here in big words, instead of setting up something to say the font size is bigger and all that kind of stuff, I can just simply put that and say, translate and that. And it would show them in big letters. It would be nice. It would be up there. Another nice thing about it is when you put that H1, it automatically skips a line afterwards. So it's like it makes a headline automatically. It kind of looks cool. So that's an easy way to do it. Well, let me show you what is a more official way, which you've already seen, but you haven't seen part of it. Suppose you have you have this hello here, and you want to make it very, very large. You can do it with the H1. You can do it with that if you want to. Just that specific word. In other words, you want to just deal on this word, okay? Well, what you can do is, you can make what they call a div. D-I-V. I should be able to spell it. D-I-V. Like so. And then, what you do is you make a style that has the size that you want. You can make, with a style sheet, you can do anything you please. So you say, okay, I want whatever follows this div, I want it to be, I want the font, I'm going to move it out of the way here because I'm going to do it. Font size to be, whatever, 20, whatever you want, 20 pixels or whatever. There's different things you can put in there, just 20 will do it, but you can say 20 pixels or whatever you want. So what I'm saying, the font size, for instance, when I close this thing, now here's what happens. When I set that div up, it will do that to every single word until it runs into a /div. So in other words, from now on, every word's going to be treated by that thing. So if I write hello over here, instead of being in normal font size, it's going to be in 20 pixel size. Okay? And then when I run out of things I want to do, I say /div and it's over. So only the stuff between those divs actually will be processed. Just like a typical sandwich, typical HTML sandwich. Okay? You open it up, you say I want everything from now on to look like this. You can change the colors, you can do anything you want. You can do all kinds of stuff. And then close the thing, and that means everything from this point on will be processed like that. And then when you get to there, it's stopped and everything else. The next hello after that, that'll be a normal font. Whatever you set it, wherever you set it when you did body or wherever, it'll be normal fonts. That makes sense? So you're gonna need to see that. So just so you know, it's gonna be in it's on one of the things. I think that's about it. And I want to spend a few minutes showing you some programs. You guys can stay or go wherever you please. So see you next time if you leave.